On today's show, we discuss the dark side of the hobby and how to protect yourself of some of the risks of being a dealer or sports card investor. Then we'll chat about why summer grading might be a good strategy. This is episode 11 of the Hockey Card Haven podcast. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. This is the Hockey Card Haven podcast with Distefano and Anthony Santini, here to dive deep into the world of hockey card collecting, flipping, and investing. What's going on, Anth? How you doing today?
What's up, buddy? Long day at work, ready to talk hockey cards. It feels like I haven't been at a show in like a couple weeks. I know there's a little bit of a controversy that happened in the US. We're going to dive into that, but I need to get into that show mood. We're going to talk a little bit of Expo 2, which I'm fired up for, but yeah, it's been a pretty good day.
Yeah, it's kind of the slow time, right? The summer. This is kind of what happens every year. So if you're new to, collecting or investing or flipping, whatever you want to call it, and you're realizing that things have slowed down a little bit, this is normal, right? This is why you see prices dip in the summer. But if you're a savvy investor, it is a good time that you can take advantage. And we'll talk about some of the things that you can take advantage of a little bit today. Grading is one of them. We'll discuss that in a little bit. But you brought up that card show that was had down in the States, down in Dallas. There was definitely a situation down there that's now gone viral. It was at the Dallas Card Show. It's being called the Great Heist of the Dallas Card Show, where $2 million worth of cards were stolen from Legacy Cards, which is the name of the company, I guess, or the family who owns these cards. And I've actually got the video here, so I can pull up the video and I can show you guys exactly what happened. But essentially, they had a big briefcase of cards like people usually do. I mean, you've got your slab case and, whichever company you use, I suppose. No free ads until we get a sponsor. So we're not going to name a company, but one of the briefcases that holds a bunch of cards, and there's a lot of high-end ones that were in this specific briefcase. And I'm going to pull it up right now, exactly what we're looking at here. Wait, whoops, I meant to have this pulled up. We will share the screen. So this was at the Dallas Card Show over the weekend, and $2 million worth of cards were stolen here. So if you take a look at what exactly is happening right in this area, which I could probably make it maybe a little bigger.
There you go.
There we go. So if you watch what's happening right in this area, this gentleman is talking, and like these two guys are pretty much we don't really need sound on there, but these guys are pretty much distracting these two individuals. And as that was all happening, somebody came and stole the cards. Did you see that happen? Did you see the cards come get stolen there, Anthony?
I didn't even notice the swipe.
Exactly. That's how stealthy this was. Now, the video is about to replay. Now, I'm going to tell you who to watch. Watch this guy right here, who looks like he's just cleaning up, putting chairs away, right? Just putting chairs away, acting like a good guy. Maybe he's part of the show, and he's just putting stuff away. And all of a sudden, these gentlemen are all being, now watch what he's doing here. Now he comes over, swipes the briefcase, and just nonchalantly walks off, and away he goes. Gone. $2 million worth of singles inside that slab case. And it's really unfortunate. It is definitely one of the unfortunate parts of this hobby, that there are some scumbags out there, obviously, that really can put a big damper on the hobby. And hopefully Legacy Sports and that family can get those cards back. I know that they've put out a $70,000 reward for any information that'll lead to them recovering their cards. There was there wasn't hockey, it was high-end vintage baseball cards, but down in the States, man, that stuff is expensive. Apparently there were 652 mantles, and if you watched what was that Golden, you watched the Golden stock. So you know a little bit about the mantle, the 52 mantle being one of the most iconic cards of all time in the sports card world. Apparently there were 6 of them that were inside this case, along with many other high-end vintage rookie baseball cards that swiped, gone, and it's really unfortunate that that there are people like that out in the world. I feel for them. Hopefully, legacy guards and that family can figure it out, and these people could be punished, and they can get their cards back.
No, I definitely agree. It sucks watching that video. That was the first time I actually saw and witnessed, like, you actually did a pretty good, job of narrating exactly what was going on, because I never saw it. I wasn't even able to see it even, like, 2 nights ago when I was watching the video. I was a little bit confused. I wasn't sure if that was the video where they were pointing out the people, like, it was so confusing.
It took me a good 3 watches to finally figure it out, because I'm watching, I'm like, "W Wait, what happened? No, those guys didn't
I didn't
steal anything," and then I
Yeah.
realized I did some reading, and there was a 3rd guy who was putting away chairs, so then when I was watching, I was looking for the guy putting away chairs, and sure enough, you see him walk over and steal that briefcase, and, so, like, this was a legit heist. I mean, this was,
Seriously.
a distract, and they distracted the 2 guys who were, the owners of the booth,
Yeah.
and in came a 3rd and, swiped the cards. It's really unfortunate. So, PSA to those who attend shows, and I mean, both you and I, Anthony, we do set up at shows,
Yeah.
right? And we're in those situations all the time where, we often have had to leave our booths unattended for a second, and your heart's beating when and we don't have $2 million worth of cards sitting there, but our heart's still beating when we leave for those few seconds. But if you guys are setting up at card shows like that, and you got big money cards, don't leave your stuff unattended.
Yeah.
Always have eyes on the prize, especially the expensive stuff.
Do you remember that one time at the expo? I think it was I don't remember if it was the November one or the one
It was the
just 3
past one.
months ago
It was the
at
past one.
trade night where I lost my briefcase. I couldn't find it for, like, dude, it was like 30 seconds where I was doing a deal with a guy. I shook hands with him, went to go to my briefcase to, like, pull it up and grab my cash, and I was like, "Oh my god, where is my briefcase?" And then I literally just left. I didn't even tell the guy, like, "Oh, I don't know where my thing is." I just bolted to, like, you, because I think that was the last guy I talked to, and I don't remember if it was, like, at your table or at the table
It
beside,
was.
but, like, I got extremely lucky. Like,
Well,
people
you
don't
come up to me. It's funny, you came up to me. I get you must have blacked out, like, you barely
I was
remember the story. You
I
you
was so
come up to
scared.
me, and you're like, "Dude, like, do you know where my briefcase is? Like, dude, I can't find my briefcase. Like, are you?" And I'm like, "Dude, you left it on my table. It's literally right there in front of me. Like, right here, buddy." I slapped it. You're like, "Oh my god, thank
Dude, I was
God." 'Cause, like, I mean, that wasn't
freaking out.
$2 million worth of stuff, but
No,
there's
no.
thousands of dollars worth of stuff in there for, a college kid. Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, like, and it was, like, all my work from today, and I think that was maybe the Saturday night, all my work from Thursday and Friday, the new pickups, there's cash in there. It's a briefcase, that's your float, you know what I mean? My wallet's in there nonetheless, like, I don't know how much is in there, credit, debit, all that stuff, right? And when you lose your briefcase, it's like, "Oh my goodness." So for me personally, I probably had what, max? I don't know, call it $1,000. I had $1,000 in cards in that briefcase and
You had
whatever.
more. I guarantee you had more than that in there.
Whatever it was, that's what I had in the briefcase. Let's just call it that. And for me to freak out like that, I couldn't even imagine what legacy cards, experienced when they got back to the office or got back to the car or wherever it was where, you know, realization settled in.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Of all the briefcases too, like, they clearly they brought a lot of cards, and the
Yeah.
one that gets taken, which they believe that it was targeted, and the way that the video kinda shakes out, it does seem as though, it was targeted to an extent. The one that goes missing is the one that the high-end set, the one that's got your 52 Mickey Mantles and all your other stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really tough. I guess, to make this a bit more of an educational PSA type of segment, I suppose, like, what can we learn from this situation, Anthony? Like, what can be done to maybe prevent this? Is there precautionary measures you could take?
I mean, you have to treat your collectibles like it's gold, right? And like for me and you that know what it's like to set up and know what it's like to own a briefcase of collectibles and keep it in there, we'd say okay, I could totally see this happening because you see it so loosely unattended to sometimes at shows. You want to walk the show, you're cleaning up, you're not turned, you're talking to a guy, and then out of nowhere, there's a guy going through your bin. You don't know if he's going to pull out a $2 card because you'll never find it. I think if you're setting up at shows, you just need to really be careful who you're talking to, who's, lingering around the booth, because for them to go after the one case that has all the best cards, it had to be some sort of, like you said, a heist, targeted inside job. Who knows? Because this is like massive. This is like bigger than a bank robbery, I'd say. I don't even think branches hold this amount of cash nowadays. The
That's a good
only
point.
positive that I could say will come out of this is going forward, all those cards that are in a PSA slab that do have the certification number are pretty much tainted. Going forward, I think it would be very tough to sell these cards, especially for a high
Really?
end market.
Really?
I
Really?
really think so. Like, in movies when a bank is robbed and they have the
You're on.
blue dye,
Yeah. Can I tell you an easy way for how you fix that?
besides cracking it.
Well, that's all you do though. That's what do you mean besides cracking? Unlike serial number on money, you can't erase those. That's there. You could easily crack a card out of a case, and all of a sudden, all right, it may not be worth this PSA 6 Mickey Mantle rookie.
Yeah,
It
but
may not be worth the 250,000 that I was at that it was in a PSA 6, but it's still sure as hell still worth 25, $30,000 raw.
yeah. I mean,
You
I
know,
guess that's a way to look at it. That would be an idea, but if you're looking to get full value for I mean, we're going into depth now with what's the strategy now for these
I'm,
guys.
I'm just saying it's not like I'm these guys will be able to sell the cards like the they'll just crack them out of those cases and they could crack them and then resubmit them.
Yeah,
Like what stops them from doing that, right? Crack and
that's true.
resubmit. You know what I mean? So it's not as though it's like a vehicle where it's got a VIN number and
Yeah, yeah,
this stuff can easily be put back out into the market. It's just unfortunate. I mean, really
sure.
unfortunate. I'm not sure if hopefully these guys get caught. Like, remember the was it the Best Western or there was some similar situation that happened at remember there was that hotel at one of the shows where there was like 254 cards were stolen. There was like a shipment or something like that that was stolen from the hotel lobby, and it
Never saw
turns
it.
out that that was a big story, huge
Really?
story. Yeah, Google it really quickly.
Yeah.
It was quite a big story. And it turns out that it was one of the guys who worked at the hotel who was in on it,
Hmm.
who was part of like the heist. But they did end up recovering 52 of the 54 cards that were stolen in that heist because they were sent to the hotel and left in
Yeah.
the lobby and didn't make its way to where it was supposed to go.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember where it was. It was one of the big card shows. It was about a month or 2 months ago or something like that. It wasn't that long
Mhm.
ago. But yeah, it was quite wild. I think maybe Burbank card show potentially. Um,
Ohio? From Ohio?
I think actually maybe somewhere in Ohio. Man,
Uh,
that sounds
Best Western?
yeah.
$2
Yeah.
million dollars worth of baseball cards to Best Western Hotel. Was this a really good idea? Question mark. I
Well,
assume your
yeah.
answer is no for whoever wrote that on Reddit. I mean, good job. Thanks for the
Yeah.
sarcasm.
Yeah, obviously not. But like I'm just saying like this is happening. It's happened and with the card values at where they're at, I mean, these are commodities in the world. These are very valuable commodities in the world. And unfortunately, like yeah, there's some amazing people in this hobby. Outstanding people in this hobby
Mhm.
um that I've met and that I know and that are good people, but there are some jerks. There are some terrible people in this world. These people probably aren't really even in the hobby. They're just here to steal and make a quick buck. Like I wouldn't
Yeah,
even
who
consider them
knows?
hobby members. Like these are just scum of the earth, citizens of the world. Not even citizens, but scum of the earth people of the world who are
Yeah.
doing these types of things and taking advantage of people. And I really hope that legacy cards they alerted the authorities. They're going to try and do the best they can to recover these cards and get them back. I'm not sure if they were insured or not. Like I have no idea if
I
you
don't
can
think
insure
so.
cards. I know you can insure a collection, but that's like at home. I don't know if you can get like on the go insurance. Like if you take
That
your stuff, like I don't know. It's something that I'd have to look into. But um, Yeah, it's really unfortunate. The one thing that I thought of that you could do, like if you've got $2 million worth of cards, let's be honest, you're probably not broke. B, you probably run a decent business if you've been able to accumulate that type of capital. You could probably like hire a security person
Yeah, a
for
proper
like
one.
30, 40 bucks an hour, just like a local security person, and you say, hey, don't take your eyes off of that at this case all day. Your job
Yeah.
is to just make sure at this case no one goes in there, no one touches it, and just keep this bad boy on you. And when we take him out, we put it in a slab case for a put it on a like you see like in the movies, like if people put him on why am I blanking? Handcuffs. They kind of
Oh, yeah.
handcuff the briefcase,
Yeah.
handcuff it. If it comes out, you handcuff that thing until it gets back into the vault or back into the van. Like that's the only other thing that I would say. Like if you have high end expensive cards and the
Yeah.
millions of dollars that you've got lying around just sitting in a plastic briefcase like that or a metal briefcase, whatever it was, maybe invest in someone to watch it. Like
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
that's the other thing that you could, another measure you could take if you are dealing it in high enough end stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure going forward now, especially with the national, that's just what, 2 weeks or a week around the corner. I think it's coming up in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
I'm
The
sure
week
there's
of
gonna
the
be.
week of the trade night.
Yep. Don't forget,
My
we'll
tra- my trade night kicks off National Week. We got the trade night down in St. Catharines at the Coo Falls Brewery on July 23rd. That's on the Tuesday. And then the very next day on the Wednesday, the National kicks off. So I like to think that that is the kickoff show
for the
to the
national.
National.
Love
Yes.
it. Hey, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then obviously with the national coming up, like I was saying too, I think a lot of people with high end cards are really going to look at this situation and be like,
Yeah.
okay, if I can eat an $1,000 cost to have someone like you just mentioned sit there all weekend, I believe it's Thursday to Sunday, and pay one
Mhm.
guy to sit at that booth and watch like a hawk, I think there's going to be a lot of security guards coming in because
Yeah.
people are going to be on edge at the national after watching that. And there's
100%.
so many ways that this could have been prevented. And at the end of the day, like you mentioned, it's scum of the earth people that make decisions like this to steal, people's belongings. But to a certain extent too, you need to be a little bit more, aware of your collectibles. And I'm gonna put myself out there too when I'm setting up at shows because I feel like I, put my faith in people too many times. Like even at the Hamilton show, there was one time where I ran to my car and I was talking to M4, good buddy too. They have their card store out in Hamilton, and he was looking through my boxes, and I pretty much said, you know what, I'm just gonna run to the car. And I said to him, like, yeah, all good. Just keep looking. Like, I trust him. Absolute beauty. Like, when you talk about nice guys in the hobby,
Yeah.
top tier. Like, absolute isolate him, top tier. And then when I came back, he said, like, dude, I know, like, I'm good, but, like, if other people come too, like, aren't you nervous? And in my head, I'm like, I mean, it's okay. Everyone's hit nice. No one's gonna steal, but this situation right here just shows that there are some really bad people out there.
Yeah, like it's different. I think if we're talking value boxes, it's one thing. If someone steals whatever a $20 card out of your value box, it sucks, but it's not gonna make or break your weekend. You lose $2,000 worth of slabs or
Yeah.
$2 million worth of slabs. I mean, that's your business at that
Yeah.
point. That's your entire business kind of going up in flames. The years it takes to accumulate 6 Mickey Mantle and 52 Topps cards. Like for those who aren't aware of baseball, that's the second most highly coveted baseball card in the world, next to the T12. Um, what's his name? They
Honest
talk
Wagner?
Honus Wagner. Yeah, thank you. They're T206 Honus Wagner,
Yeah, yeah,
T212
yeah.
So like that's a tough card to get. There's not a lot in the world, and even had a PSA 6, which is a very high grade for a card that's at this point what 72 years old. Insane. So yeah, that's what I would say. Don't set up at a table alone too. If you can, do it with a buddy, have someone there, or at least have a buddy next to you if like your friend, like you and I know that whenever we go to shows
Yeah.
moving forward, we sometimes we'll set up together at the M&L show or something like that in St. Catharines going forward. If I know, I'll be like, stick me next to
Yeah.
Anthony, or stick me
Yeah.
next to my boy Brandon, who watches the podcast. Shout out to you, Brandon.
Shout out.
We'll try and sit together, so that if you do want to have a little walk around, you got someone who you trust who can keep an eye on your stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely agree. I mean, next time I set up, when me and Eric usually do it too, or if me and you do it, I'm gonna keep my eye. And I kind of want to pivot too to an upcoming show in November because we're 121 days away from the expo, and I feel like this is a good segue because now with us, I know we've been talking about maybe getting a table, seeing what it looks like, and we're a distance away. But to look at it from a grand scheme of things, this is exactly where you could kind of learn and guide a little bit of a better idea for what November is going to look like, especially if we set up. I mean, dude, you look at a situation like this, and we're what 3-4 months away from the expo. Like, what would you do differently now if you were set up, or if you're going to be set up in November at that Sports Card Expo?
is this it? Like, are we moving on from the heist conversation? Now we're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
Okay.
I think we can
Um,
segue into it because it's like in the grand scheme of things too, right? Like this is going to go on for years. Like even though it's happened just this week, don't
yeah,
think that 2 years from now there's going to be any difference of
100%.
people that come trying to steal things, even at the expo in November. Like for everyone looking, like it's crazy.
Well, remember, was it 2 years ago? I want to say the expo. There was that some roommate stole. It was a bit of a different situation, but some roommate stole somebody's cards and then went and tried to sell them at the expo. I was trying
Oh,
to sell like
oh
thirty
wow, yeah,
thousand
yeah,
dollars
yeah,
worth of cards. It was like a
yeah.
university kid or something
Yep.
like that, and his roommate in college, and ended up legitimately getting caught. Police came and escorted him. Or, I'm sure he was arrested. I don't really
Yeah,
know
he
what
was
happened
arrested. Yep.
afterward, but
Yep.
he did get cuffed and was walked out. He had the little perp walk, and he tried to steal and sell cards, thousands of dollars worth of cards. So yeah, this stuff does happen. Just need to make sure that you take the most precaution to try and mitigate a lot of these risks, and just be aware of surroundings. And always be careful with
Yeah.
with what's going on. But yeah, we can get into what maybe our plan might be. I think that when we talk about it, how many days? 121 days away.
121 days away, baby. Let's
So
go.
you're already gearing up for uh for the expo, are you?
Oh, dude, I'm so ready. And I'm even more hyped randomly, absolutely out of nowhere, because 2 days ago, usually I'll call Eric on the way to work or something like that. He starts at 9, I start at 9. We have the same similar drive. So I always call him and I say, "What's up?" And it was like 2 days ago, I woke up and I had the weirdest feeling. It was like I woke up in the first 3 seconds that I woke up. I thought it was like expo morning. I don't know how to describe it, but when it's those days where it's a Saturday, you wake up, you think you have to go to work or something, but then you realize, oh, I can go back to bed. It's the weekend. And it's like the best feeling in the world. I had the exact opposite. I woke up, had this weird, weird, weird feeling that it was like expo day. And then I realized, oh, I got to head to work. So I'm just the past like 3 days I've been in expo mode. I'm chasing that feeling, and like you said, 121 days away. I have so many good ideas, and like you said, I know you want to get into grading too, because dude, we're far away. But if you can strategize now, I feel like you could be pulling it in at expo for sure.
Well, I think those conversations kind of go hand in hand with each other. I really do, because I think now you're a bigger grader than I am. Have you submit often. Like you've got almost a monthly submissions. Like
Yeah,
you'll go
once a
out there
month.
and you'll submit a lot.
Yeah,
Whereas I'm every now and then I usually buy graded. It's just my kind of I don't know. I don't have the patience for it. But anyways, I think the summer is the best time to grade though, because this is typically when cards kind of take a bit of a hit. You see the stock dip a little, and then it always goes back up in September, October, November, right when the season starts back up and the hype is back, and rolls right into Expo. So I think over the next month or so, this is the best time to grade, because you're not going to sell your singles. A lot of people don't want to sell at a loss with the market being down. It's a big holding pattern throughout the summer. There's not a lot of shows anyways to go out
Yeah.
there and do that. Not many trade nights. So I think it's a good time to actually grade your stuff and kind of get ready and prep yourself for not just the start of the season, but like you said, for Expo, which is when you're going to, hopefully make the most amount of money. If you're out here and you're investing and you're flipping, and that's kind of what your MO is, well, that's your Super Bowl. That's your time to get it done, right? That's your time to do it. And you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. Grading is your best way to kind of do it, right? If you can buy raw at a good price, grade it, comes back a high grade 10, PSA 10, let's say, that's the biggest way that you're always going to maximize your profits. But I think
Yeah.
you start now, send your cards away, whatever it's 60-day, 90-day, 30-day turnaround, whichever one you're doing, even 120-day turnaround for some things it used
Yeah.
to be, you can get it back in time, right? But if
Yeah.
you wait a little longer, now you're it's a little dicey. So I think now is the time to really start grading, so that you can have your cards back for the start of the season and surely for Expo.
Yeah, I'm sure you hit the nail on the head to say that even like PSA in general too is probably less busier. Obviously, I don't have the numbers to back that up, but I'm gonna go out on a
I
limb and
do.
say for sure. Hey, I
I do.
like it.
I checked out Gem Rate today, actually. I was taking a peek, and since the new year, June was the lowest month of grading for
Hmm,
PSA, or for all of sports car. I believe PSA as well. Um, yeah, June was the lowest month, and I would imagine it will just kind of continue to go down a little bit. June, July, and then
yeah,
maybe August we start to see a bit more of a tick up.
ramp up.
But June, July, like this is now your time to grade, and you could probably get quicker turnarounds too because of that.
Exactly. I mean, you said it perfectly. You get quicker turnarounds if you're looking to grade things for like a quick flip, if you're looking to hold it until the expo, like now is the time. I definitely agree with you because you're a little bit more organized now. This is the time where, like you said, not as many shows. I think there was only one show in the GTA, it felt like in the month of July. Pretty much just the Hamilton show and then your trade night that you have going
Uh,
on.
no, they had
Or the
the month of
Markham.
July. The Markham show this
Sorry, I'm
weekend.
in June.
There's one up in Barrie as well. The weekend show at Kozlov Mall. I think it's Friday and Saturday. And yeah, just because you got the national, right? So I think a
Yeah.
lot of the dealers end up zipping up to the national for that week. So there's not going to be a whole lot, I don't think, at the end of the month for sure. So yeah, there's not a lot of shows happening right now.
Yeah, I just think like even though it's the summertime, people are at the cottage, people are traveling. If you're at home, you're working. If you're in a situation like us where you have the time now to go and look at your cards, grade your cards, sell the ones you don't want, keep the ones you do want to grade. Now's the time. Get organized and get prepared for this expo because it's going to come real fast, really
Yeah.
fast.
So do you have anything else that you're kind of preparing yourself for outside of grading when it comes to getting ready for Expo?
It depends. I mean, like for me right now, I'm in a situation where I don't know if I'm going to be set up or if I'm going to be walking around. So
Mm,
both of those, approaches will, what's the word I'm looking for?
it'll be different.
Determine,
Yeah.
they're going to differ and they're going to determine my preparation. That's for sure, without a doubt. Let's say I do set up, I'm definitely going to look to grade a lot, buy a lot, probably look into buying a collection, buy some more display cases because I want to do it properly, right? Like I want to have a lot of stock, I want to have a lot of cards, I want to have a lot of, nice display cases, jerseys, boxes, Funkos, like things of that nature that can really spread out.
Funkos. Ooh.
It's the expo, man. Everything sells. It feels like people. There's always someone that's going to be interested, at the very least, in something you put out on the table. Just because the show's that big, there's so many people walking the floor. So for me, if I'm setting up, I'm going to be buying. So I don't know what the answer is just yet, but when I do find out, that's going to be my goal for sure.
I've got one more question for you, and again, because you're more the grader between the two of us on the show, so I'll let you answer this because you kind of contemplate this question way more than I ever do. Like, do you have a process or like an equation when you're deciding which cards are worth sending out for grading?
Oh yeah. Oh buddy, this is like my absolute like bread and butter. I love looking at this stuff. I actually used to last year have a spreadsheet with all of the notable youngins. Now it's pretty much outdated, so I need to figure out a new like equation. I don't even think I ever told you because we weren't really like we didn't know each other too well for me to like show you this. I'll have to show you another day, or maybe toss it on the pod next week. But it had pretty much all, the differences between a $10 Young Gun, what it would grade in 10, and another $10 Young Gun. So off the top of my head, a Zach Benson PSA 10 goes for $50, and it probably sells for raw $10. But a Quentin Byfield 10 goes for $80, and a raw goes for $10. So that difference of $30, that difference in, I don't know what it is, maybe 30 some percent off the top of my head, can be the deciding factor when you grade, 10 plus of these cards. So for something like that, that's one of my biggest things that I look at. And another example of that is Trevor Zegras and Tim Stutzel future watches. So do you know what the price of a Stutzel future watch is?
Off the top of my head, I imagine it's in like the 250, 300 range.
Yeah, it goes for about like 3 to 325, upwards of
Yeah.
350. So in that 250 to 350 range, okay? Trevor Zegras, what's your guess for a raw?
So his market's weird. Like his Young Guns market's terrible, but I
Yeah.
I have a feeling his future watch probably still sells decently well. So I
Yeah.
think it's in the same range, like 250 to 3.
Nail on the head right there. 250 to 3 for that Zegers Future Watch Raw. All right, moving on now. So, going with the strategy and what I want people to understand. What do you think a Stutzel Future Watch PSA 10 goes for?
Oh boy, I would think if it's 3-ish raw, I would think in the neighborhood of 6 to 7, 8 maybe, 800.
I want to double check, but I think they're in the range of $1,000 right now, almost
Really?
above.
For like a regular, not inscribed, just a
Yep.
regular
Regular
$1,000?
PSA 10. So the last sale, and I just have it pulled up right now, is yeah, 1,022 dollars.
Mhm.
Last there's another for 790, a little lower, but then another for 959. So even to call it a
I'll
$900
take the
card,
790 sale and I'll be cool.
and you'll pay 70% of comp. That's exactly what being at a card show feels like. Anyways, let's get back on track here. So, what are the three things that we know so far? Stutzel raw goes for what? 300.
Yep,
Zegras raw goes for 300.
yep,
And a Stutzel PSA 10 goes for about what? 900.
sure.
What do you think a Zegras Future Watch PSA 10 goes for?
I mean, I would argue the same, but maybe 1,000? If
You
if
would
if
think, but
Stützle goes for 900, like, the thing is, I think Stutz is a better player. I don't think that Zegras should be more money, but I just have a feeling he is. But are you telling me that's not the case? Is Zegras less?
it's almost half of the case. A Zegras PSA 10 Future Watch goes for about $500. So
Wow.
for you to tell me that the raws are the exact same, they're both good players, they're both forwards.
What's the pop difference?
I don't know the pop difference. I don't know the difference in percentages of,
Mm,
um, you know, gem rate, all that stuff. But going off just the sheer fact of if you're gonna buy a Stutzel or if you're gonna buy a Zegras and you're gonna grade it, what do you think has the better value? For sure, the Stutzel.
right.
So just off that general knowledge of how that works and the massive price difference between the two in a PSA 10 versus the raw being an exact same, that's what I'm going to be aiming for to grade and pick up cards that have that extra boost, that extra percentage boost, if you want to call it, for lack of a better term, in a PSA 10 slab. So I feel like that's what I'm gearing for the expo.
It's interesting. Like, I know shooting for the PSA 10 is obviously what you're striving to do. When I'm contemplating grading, I like to look at PSA 9 pricing. And I like to say, okay, how is this worth it to grade? Because you know, if you look at gem rates, they're typically between 40 to like 60%. So it's almost a 50-50 shot that it's going to 10 anyways, right? So it's a 50-50 shot. If you're grading a card and it comes back a 9, right? Is there enough value in that 9 to make it worth sending out? Like, that's almost where I'm at sometimes. Like, it just for example, right, you brought up a $10 Young Gun, right? So, Quentin Byfield you brought up.
Yeah.
So, if you could buy that raw for 10 bucks, right, and a PSA 9, it may only be a $30 card, but it's gonna
Yep.
cost you 35 to grade plus 10 bucks. You're into that card for $45. So, is it worth taking that risk sometimes? If you don't get the 10, you're losing money. And if that's the case, I don't necessarily know if it's worth the risk. That's kind of how I contemplate sometimes when I'm thinking about sending off for grading is if I get a 9, am I making money? That's pretty much where my scale is at. In a 9, am I going to be up money or is it going to basically be, roughly the same or maybe even a little bit of a loss? That's where I usually just wouldn't even consider sending off the card. Unless
Yeah.
it's high-end. If it's a high-end card, it's a little bit different. Like, we're talking future watches, okay, you can really, up your pricing with 9s and 10s there, but, like, for lower end young guns, which are primarily the most graded hockey cards out there because 'cause they're the flagship rookies, I look at the price of a PSA 9, and that almost is what makes my determination as opposed to a PSA 10.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea too. The scale that I like to look at is a PSA 8 is a massive loss. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. The
Yes.
card sucks. It sucks when you grade it and it comes back an 8, no matter how much value, how valuable it is.
I've got a question for okay, actually, go on. I'll ask my follow-up after.
So an eight's a massive loss. A nine is a break even slash, minor loss, but I'm gonna call it a loss because it's a waste of time overall. I'd say sometimes I feel that way. The way because I'm a little bit of a more aggressive grader. Like I'll grade anything as long as it looks good and it has value in a 10. And
Yeah,
then a
like
10,
like
obviously you
like
make money.
Pro?
Yeah, I mean that pro is like a different sometimes you gotta try out different things. You
Yeah.
gotta,
I
you
wasn't
know,
trying to I wasn't trying to derail the conversation, just throwing a little
throw a little
callback from last show.
Hey, see if you could throw a little curveball at me. I wasn't able to get to that one, but hit me where it hurts. That pro was definitely I've seen brighter days with my grading plays, that's for sure.
Well, I'm curious your thoughts on this too. While we're on the subject of grading, because I find that in a lot of the sports cards group that I'm affiliated with, and a lot of the forums that I'm on, and even often people will just have these conversations peer to peer. There seems to be a lot of discourse about PSA 9 values as a whole and what PSA 9 values should be because it seems though PSA 9 values are starting to be comped almost as raw. Like raw values.
Mhm.
There are even some some cards that sell better raw than in a PSA 9. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I think it's driven by how much people crack now. You know what I mean? Like when you look at a card that's a PSA 9, a BGS 9, a BGS 9.5, most people crack it and you get that opportunity to get a 10 again. But when you have a raw card, it kind of has that potential of being the 10. And half the time now, it feels like expensive cards. If it's not graded, it's probably damaged. And if it's in a 9, that means it's not a 10. So when you buy a PSA 10 or sorry, a PSA 9, excuse me, it's pretty much saying, okay, this card's never going to be a 10. So,
Well,
the value is pretty stagnant, but people don't realize that
the thing
half
is,
the
you never
time.
know. You don't just because PSA, BGS, and SGC, all of them are very like it's like it's all so inconsistent. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that, I don't necessarily agree that if it's a 9, it's a high end card. It's probably not going to be a 10. What that means is, well, you didn't get the right eye to look at it, but you
Yeah.
could send it in the next time. Like I sold the PSA 9 McDavid to somebody, actually M4 cards. Sold
Shout
one
out.
to him last summer. He cracked it and sent it to PSA. Came back PSA 10, the exact same card, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that $1,300 card became a what did it get up to like $4,400 at some point
Yeah.
during the cup final? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like that's not necessarily the case sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's possible to crack it, but in the eye of a collector that maybe is just gonna buy it, sit on it, buying a PSA 9 might be ideal for someone that's gonna sit on it, but if you're looking to grade it, you're probably more inclined to pick up that raw that you would trust the word of the dealer to say, "Yeah, I never graded it. I'm not a grader." You know what I mean? Rather than buying that PSA 9 and hoping, "Well, I hope I got a bad grader," or sorry, I hope he or she got a bad grader that day, and maybe if I crack it, could send it back and get that 10.
So that's the flipper investor viewpoint. From more of a collector's viewpoint, I think I look at PSA 9s and I just think there are way too many of them, right? Like nowadays, like we talk about, are we in a junk slab era?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we had what, well, just this past month in June, there was 1.1 million cards that were graded in June alone, and that
Crazy.
was less than, the May pricing, which set records at, what was it, like 1.7 million cards
Yeah, it was
in
ridiculous.
May. Like, we're getting to a point here where there's just a ridiculous amount of cards that are graded, and most of them are modern, and they're coming back either 9s or 10s. In some cases, maybe they're coming back 8s and whatever, but most of them are 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you look at you know, why people have an issue with 9s being, close to raw values. I think it's just because there's so many of them out there. It's not a
Yeah.
premium anymore. Prior to this junk slab era, if that's truly what we were in, when, you know, there wasn't a lot of people grading before the pandemic, right? So the pop counts were low. Now they're astronomical. They're ridiculously high out there. And I was taking a look at Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard's PSA 10. It's already crossed 4,000. Like, it's only been a couple of
That's
months.
crazy.
It's at 4,000 and like 1,000 shy of Jack Hughes PSA 10 and Kirill Kaprizov PSA 10, which are years old. It's wild, and I think that's the big reason for me. So when you have people complaining 9 should be worth way more than raw, it's insane how people devalue what 9s are. I think it's the market. I think it's just the fact that there's so many of them out there. It's basically raw right now, right? The supply is too high. And I think if you've been in the hobby for a long time, I can understand and empathize with that, because you may have got a PSA 9 back in 2016 and it was worth 40% more because it was a 9 over raw. Now it's worth like 10%, 5%, sometimes less than what raw cards could sell for.
Yeah.
And I understand you being upset about that, but that's just the new landscape of the hobby. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's developing into a, you know, traditionally it's beneficial to grade your cards. You're gonna maximize your value, so I think that's the way the hobby's headed for me
If you
personally.
get a 10 though, that's my point. If you get a 10.
Yeah, it's just that's what people are always gonna chase, right? It's like you're chasing that 10, that's what's gonna maximize the value, but right now it's just tough when you get that 9, 9's still mint, it's still good, and, it still technically means that your card's in good condition, but if you buy a McDavid for 1,200 because you like it and it looks good and you want to grade it, you send it to PSA, it costs you $100 because you get upcharge. You're into it for $1,300 and you're only able to move it for $1,000 to get your cash back because no one wants to buy a 9 because it's not a 10. And oh, I probably can't crack it. It's like, how can the hobby really move on, you know, without selling cards that are just dead mint? Like, it's impossible to almost sell raw cards that are valuable that are not dead mint, like minty. You know what I mean?
No, I do, because I always see posts buying minty cards, buying this Young Guns minty. It's what everyone's looking for. But ultimately, you look at gem rates, most cards are 50%, 50-50 if it's going to be a 9 or a 10. So it's a 50-50 shot if you're going to be adding value, surplus value to that card, or is it going to come back a 9? And, at this point, you better hope that, that 9 is enough to at least make your $35 back.
Yeah.
The grading fee, sometimes it's not, especially for, some lower end Young Guns.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you your Jacob Perot,
Oh,
just to go back to it, I'm just saying, like, if you go, you look up a Jacob Perot PSA 9, I'd be surprised if you could get more than $5 for that.
where
Y- You know
is
what
this
I
thing?
mean?
I need to get
Right?
this thing like if I had
Short brand.
You know how on Overdrive Odog has like the things on the back where he
Yeah.
has like I should get one of those, and I could just put like my pro, and the real ones will
Legit.
know. They'll
The real ones
understand
will
like
know.
this.
The day oneers, the ones that were here in the for at least episode 10. Episode 10, Anthony, for those who didn't watch episode 10, go
Yeah,
back and watch it. Good conversation I thought we had. But Anthony was talking about how he thought that was going to be a smart play. And I think he's played a grand total of one NHL game.
Yeah, and he was a -1 actually.
One NHL game. He was a -1, and yeah, maybe he's going to be in. Was it One Night Only? Was that the book by Ken Reed? I think One Night Only is what it was called. Shout out Ken Reed. Good book. I've read. I've got it. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but I've read probably about a quarter of it. Some really interesting stories in there. And Jacob Perreault might be there one day. And it came back at 8. That's the sad. An 8? You multiples? You sent in multiples?
Oh, buddy. Oh,
Dude.
buddy.
Oh,
buddy, you don't know about this bad grading experience. You don't know about this bad grading experience.
You know what, though? You live and you learn, right? You live
Hey,
and you learn.
You live in your look at that. Look at that.
That's
crazy.
brutal.
That's
How do
like
you
worth
know?
like I don't even know if that's worth $5.
No, I don't think it is. That's like the type of card where someone would it's worth raw. It's raw pricing.
Yeah, this is probably like $200 here that I straight up wasted. But that's what happens when you learn. If you are listening and you made it this far to the episode, comment Jacob Perreault. Just Jacob Perreault. That's it. That's the meme right there. Comment Jacob Perreault in the comments.
Or who was your Jacob Perreault? That's what I want to know. Who else did people invest in and maybe think, all right, I'm gonna be smarter than everyone else in the hobby. I'm gonna grade this guy, and then he's gonna pop off in the future, and I'm gonna make a killing because no one else has him. It's low supply, and there'll be high demand. Because that was what your plan was with Jacob Perreault. It just clearly didn't happen. So I'd love to know who was everyone else Jacob Perreault or Jean-Luc Foudy.
Hey, Foodie's still alive though. Actually, I want to take this time to show you a little bit of my Foodie collection because I know you want to see it.
Well, you picked up a clear cut the other day, didn't you?
Yeah. So I got what's this? This is the high gloss.
Oh,
PSA 7 though, just ridiculous. All this stuff came from the same sub. Like I don't know what the heck happened that day, but whatever.
That's what I mean. Like that guy clearly got into a fight with his girlfriend. Probably was broken up with the night before. Showed up to work and said, "I'm gonna make every single person who sent their cards to PSA today feel my pain." And you opened up your sub and you felt that pain. You felt it, brother.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I mean, this all came in from the same. I'll take a 9 though on the clear cut exclusives, and then what else is there? There was like a clear cut. I got an 8. Like this is all from the same sub. It's ridiculous. I really got what that sub, but this is
royally effed. Royally effed. There you go. That's what we're looking for.
Anyways, let's move on here because my wallet's hurting.
Really quickly, I since we are on that conversation about last week, there was another discussion that we were having that I just quickly want to revisit. We were talking about players being traded and leaving through free agency and whether or not it would impact their card values. And you believe that it does. I it's not that I don't believe it doesn't happen. I just believe that it's case by case. And I think something happened last week that kind of proved my point in a way. Matt Savoie got traded like 3 days, like a week after his Young Guns card got released. Do you know what his card exploded to after the trade to Edmonton?
I should have looked. I don't even know.
So on release day, Matt Savoie, who was a Buffalo Sabres prospect, he was taken with the 9th overall pick in 2022. Still very young, 22 years old, tore up the WHL, and he'll go and play pro hockey this year now in Edmonton. His market exploded on release day, and a couple of days within release day, Matt Savoie Young Guns were selling for about $15 to $20 raw. I saw one as high as $54 yesterday. Oof. $54 for Matt Savoie. That's up in Cooley pricing, brother. Like we're now seeing Savoie up there with Cooley and Fantilli. That's not opinion. That's fact. That's what we're
Yeah.
we're looking at in terms of market value. Is he as good as those players? No, I don't believe so. But people look at that trade and they see the hype of him joining Edmonton. He's an Edmonton, Alberta native, I might add, St. Albert, which is the next door to Edmonton. And people think, ooh, he put up 30 goals in 34 games in the dub. You stick that guy on a wing with Connor McDavid, this guy's going to tear it up. I'm
Oh
going to
yeah.
buy into the hype. It was a brand new product, which also kind of helped, lower supply than a product that would be out for a couple of years. But I think that just goes to show that I think it's case by case. Just because Matt Savoie's in a Sabres uniform, people are still going to gobble him up because the hype's there.
No, for sure. I mean, he's a good player too. I'm surprised though that he got traded. I know we don't want to talk too much about the trade in general, but I really think unless there's an underlying like reasoning why,
He's small.
maybe.
Like that's the only thing. He's small.
I mean,
That's the only knock on him.
how tall is McLeod? What's the difference?
Well, he's like Matt Savoie's like 5'8", 5'9". Like he's really, really small. Like
Yeah,
5'9", 170 pounds, 75 pounds. Ryan McLeod's probably at least 6'1", I would think. Like he's stocky. He's an NHLer, third line, shut
6'3",
down center type of guy. But how tall?
6'3".
There you go. So he's a big guy. He's a bigger
Yeah,
dude for sure.
yeah,
So size is definitely the main objective for why Buffalo traded for him. But Matt Savoie's got immense talent and a lot of upside, and I also don't quite understand that. And I think that he's actually going to have a lot of success in Edmonton. Like
yeah,
I've got a couple Matt Savoies, and I think he's a hold right now. Like
yeah.
$54 might be a decent sell if I could
But
get a buyer at that price. I don't know how long that price is going to be around for. I probably would sell a young gun at that. That's quite high, and the hype is there right now. I'd imagine it will level off a little bit, but he immediately becomes the third best player to invest in out of Series 2,
yeah,
right? I would imagine, or extended series rather. I would imagine behind Fantilli and Cooley. So yeah, I think it's case by case about whether or not changing uniforms will impact their hobby values. With that, let's get to some hobby news. And speaking of Series 2 and Young Guns, looks like we're going to be getting a Macklin Celebrini Young Gun next year because he signed his entry-level contract with the San Jose Sharks. So
cool.
should be a nice chase for Series 2 next year.
I mean, one of the biggest chases, without a doubt. Like, I don't think there's going to be anyone else that really contests him for now, at least, depending on how the season starts out. Celebrini is going to be one of the biggest buys. Like, when it comes to the expo, when it comes to shows in the future, like, I could definitely see myself 2 years down the road grading Celebrinis, picking up Celebrinis. He's going to play for Canada. He's going to play for the Sharks for a while. Could end up being a
Big.
QP.
You're
Pardon
big
me?
on Celebrini, eh?
I mean, the direction it's going right now, like everything, all signs point to a positive track for him in the NHL. You know, San Jose's turning a corner. He's young. He played well. He played well out of Boston. San Jose has a lot of good line mates too that he could play with. Will Smith actually just signed his ELC. What was it, a month and a half, 2 months ago? He's looking to make a difference in the NHL. They're making trades. Tyler Toffoli, I believe, signs with San Jose for like a 5.5 year deal. Just ridiculous. So I think the future is going to look good for Celebrini. It's going to look good for Series 2. And something like this is only more beneficial for hockey cards, too. Getting star players from Canada, one of the biggest places to, collect in hockey cards. All signs point to a positive, no doubt.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. I think he's going to be a big time player and definitely a big chase next year for Series 2. Upper Deck, very excited about this
Oh,
development.
yeah.
Now they have somebody who can sell boxes. Not going to be quite Bedard level hype, obviously. We all know that. But Fantilli, Cooley level hype. I think certainly he's definitely in that realm. All right, it's time for some show and tell, some pickups from the week. Did you get any pickups this week? What's up? Any grading submissions you got in return? What's up?
So I picked up one card. I'm still waiting for it in the mail, but I do have the photo of it, so at least I could show it. I think it's probably sitting in my mailbox right now. If I were to guess, I guess I don't have
Run
this photo.
outside quickly.
I mean, the only issue is my dad isn't home right now. He has the key on his the cars the sorry the he
Oh,
I was
you
trying
got
to find the photo and also talk, but he actually has the keys on his truck thing, so I'm not able to go right now. Absolutely bummy, but I picked up this Jamie Drysdale rookie ink sweaters. It's a
oh,
rookie
it's
patch
nice.
auto. Pretty
On
sweet
card?
patch. No, not on card, which is a little bit disappointing. It's numbered though. It's a rookie. I don't think it's game used, but for that patch, for that rookie, for that out of 49, I got it for $20 shipped, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. I mean, Drysdale's a little bit underrated. Maybe I could pop it in a one touch, hold on to it for a little bit, or a nice comp pulls up, and I might be able to sell it for a little more. But I feel pretty confident owning that for $20.
You're a funny person, Anthony. You're a funny person.
Why?
Because you tried to make the argument last week about, like, players who get traded and change jerseys
I
impacts
know.
their market, and now you're like, Jamie
I
Drysdale.
know.
And I thought about this afterwards too. You know who you said was on your sell, like a player who you needed to sell or you wanted to get traded? You wanted Brady Tkachuk to get traded because it would help his hobby hype. That messaging doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm a little bit all over the place in that sense, but if you look at Brady Tkachuk, I feel like he needs to get moved because that's just a sinking ship. It's
But
it,
if
it's
it's a
going down.
different jersey, like you
Yeah,
said, that's why I think we are on the same page now. It's base by base. I don't think there's an overarching
yeah,
answer. I think it's every case is going to be different
yeah.
in that regard. I had a couple of pickups, just some cheap ones. I did picked up a Jake DeBrusk Young Guns. I think he's gonna have a really good year in Vancouver. It's a good market too, and I was able to pick it up for a decent price. And then I hit up a dollar box and just got some more cheap stuff. Another Victor Arvidsson Young Gun. He's a cheap dollar
Yeah.
buy pickup for me. Another one of I picked up another Dakota Joshua because I'm like, yep, that makes a lot of sense to buy. And I'm picking these up. I don't know if people are aware that this is so in extended, there's two types of canvas cards that you can get. There's like
Mhm.
a canvas, right? And then there's the all-star skills variation canvas. It's got the pink to it. And
Oh, that's
it's not a short print, but it's shorter printed than the regular canvas cards. So, picking these up for like a dollar, I think, isn't a terrible idea. I picked
yeah.
up another one out of a dollar box at the Hamilton show a week ago. And then I was just kind of poking through at my LCS, and I saw that was also in the dollar bin. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give that a go, just because I think that it's I don't know. I like it. I don't know. The pink to it kind of just
It
gives it
looks
a little
nice.
something
It looks
something.
nice.
And Allmark, on a new team now, might be people looking for his cards, and then just some other cheap stuff like Evan Bouchard, Silver Outburst, and just a couple of portraits, Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. I'm like, they're big
Sure.
time players. But there was also a really cool soccer pickup that I had this weekend. And I know we're a hockey card podcast, so we don't talk a lot of soccer, but I picked up I was at a garage sale and I saw this massive bag of stickers. Like soccer, the origin of soccer cards is like soccer stickers for whatever
Yeah.
reason. So I picked up like this massive lot of 2018
Hmm.
FIFA World Cup stickers. No, 2014, sorry. So 2014 FIFA World Cup stickers, like a massive lot. Like there's hundreds of these things
Yeah.
that I was able to pick up. And it had like Ronaldo and Messi
Hmm.
and Neymar and like our boy Gianluigi Buffon, a bunch of
Hey,
Buffons in there.
there he is.
Lots of dudes, Andrea Pirlo. There was lots of really, high end quality footballers in this pickup, and I don't know why I saw it, and Buddy had no idea what it was worth, and he was just like,
Mhm.
honestly, he's like, I think I picked this up at an estate sale years ago. I've probably got all the money out of like everything else I grabbed. Like, if you want this bag for super cheap, like the entire thing, you can have it. So I was like, all right, I'll
Yeah.
take a chance on it. And I kind of peeked through, and yeah, there's some decent value to these sticker cards. And Because I think it was a Neymar rookie year too, so it's like a
Ooh,
Neymar rookie as well,
yeah, beauty.
which is cool, and it's kind of perfect timing too for you know the World Cup or the Euro Cup and the Copa America's going on right now, especially with Messi playing Canada. So tonight I guess that game is, or it would have been
Eight
last
o'clock.
night,
Yeah,
but by the time
8 o'clock.
people listen to this, yeah. But yeah, I'm not turning into soccer guy, but I saw an opportunity that had potential, and I kind of took it, and we'll see what ends
I
up
like it.
happening.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a good pickup. Is there anything else that was in here that was worth talking about? Nah, not really. Nothing huge. Anyway, all right. Just a reminder once again that I've got a trade night coming up in St. Catharines, Ontario on July 23rd. It's a Tuesday at DeQ Falls Brewery in St. Catharines. It's on St. Paul Street. I'm going to be there, 6:30 till whenever things die down. I'd imagine around 10 o'clock or so. Sports cards, TCG. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully it's all ages as well. So anyone who wants to come out, you certainly can. I'm hoping it's going to be a good time. There is a couple shows this weekend, Anthony. I don't know if you plan
Ooh.
on getting into show mode at all, going to the Markham show or the show up in Barrie, possibly the Markham one on Saturday. I'm thinking might hit that up. I don't know about you.
I'll see. I mean, it's a little bit of a distance, so I'll see. And by that, I mean I'll see what the weather looks like. Because if it is not good, then I'll head there. If it is good, I will most definitely be golfing on Saturday. So I'd say check the weather network, and that's going to be a pretty clear indication if I'm going to be at the show or not.
Yeah. So if you're hoping that Anthony's going to be there, I guess hope for rain. I guess
Yeah,
is
yeah,
what he's telling us.
good call.
All right. Good call. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe right here on YouTube. We've got new episodes coming out each and every Wednesday. So we will be back next Wednesday with another episode of the Hockey Card Haven podcast.